You know what's interesting to me, fam? You know what's been living rent-free in my mind today? It's not World War III. It's the fact that in the 6 games since the All-Star break, the Mavericks have run 5 different starting lineups. And there's a decent chance that we run a 6th different starting lineup tonight. As of this moment, we have not gotten any announcements about whether or not Cooper Flagg is going to be available for today's game. We haven't gotten the affirmative that PJ Washington is going to play. If either of those guys did, and we kept the same starting lineup that we did the past 2 games, then yeah, that would be a new starting lineup. Yet another variation of your Dallas Mavericks. And I can't shake that thought because of those 6 games, there's only one person that has started all 6 of them. And I kind of want to leave just a quick pause for you to rack your brain, rewind over these past couple weeks, and figure out who you think it is that has played all 6 starts. When we get back on the other end of this, I guess, really interesting introduction, then I'll tell you. But in the meantime, yeah, we're going to talk some different Mavericks starting lineups variations. We're going to talk, let's see, you heard it here first because we have a game tonight at 5 p.m. Mountain. I guess that's 6 p.m. Central against the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to talk about why I like the Hornets and some players that I would love to steal from them. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have on today's agenda. I am your host, Ethan, the Advisor Clayton. Welcome to the party, fam. A Tuesday afternoon party. And when I say party, I mean a dope podcast. This is Your Mavs, a Dallas Mavericks podcast where all are welcome. Y'all better behave. Okay, let's dive in. I don't know that hook, that teaser in the intro was all that interesting to you. It is incredibly interesting to me because as I've watched these last 6 games, obviously none of these lineups have been super successful. We got a random win in a game that maybe we shouldn't have won, but every game, no matter who is starting, no matter who gets the quality minutes, starter level minutes, we're going to play hard. We're going to be deep in a hole. We're going to storm back. It will be a fake comeback, and we will still lose by double digits. That is incredibly interesting to me. And I think we owe all of this to the mastermind, right? The tank commander, Jason. I'm not a Dr. Kidd. I got to give credit where credit is due. He's getting a lot of these players some quality play time to kind of figure out, hey, who gets to stick around long term, who is going to fit really well next to Cooper Flagg, who's going to be kind of our core unit. And so I really like what I'm seeing. But the interesting thing that's going to serve as a contradiction to what I was just talking about, kind of that young core, the long-term players for the Dallas Mavericks, the only person that has started all 6 games since the All-Star break is Chris Middleton, right? He got his own episode yesterday. We talked about how much we love him as Dallas Mavericks yesterday in that episode. But goodness gracious, we have seen that many different starting lineups. Now, a couple of them have been mostly the same, but, little random injuries have popped up, like PJ Washington's ankle again, and now Naji Marshall dealing with a finger contusion. But Tyus Jones started 1 of those 6 games. Max Christie has started 5 of those 6 games. Naji Marshall has now started, I think, 4 or 5 of those 6. So we're just throwing a lot of different combinations out there, and we're having fun with it. And again, no matter who is on the court, we're basically getting the exact same result. It's super interesting to me. Now, I said a few moments ago, at this moment, it has not been announced that Cooper Flagg will play, PJ Washington, or even any of our new two-way guys. But I'm just going to go ahead and say it here in front of everybody. I think that not only will Cooper Flagg play tonight, but we'll get to see Tyler Smith. I don't know about John Poulakidis or basically there's been no news. There's been no needle moving one way or the other related to him. So I can't say one way or the other, but I feel pretty confident that at least Tyler Smith will get some burn tonight. And I'm so excited about the possibility of Cooper Flagg playing. But as we evaluate all these different start lineups that we've run since the All-Star break, a new trend is starting to emerge, and that is Brandon Williams starting at the point guard. He has started the last 3 games, and it's very likely he starts again tonight. And it's an interesting talking point to me because we've been talking about it even before it was announced that Ryan Nembhard was converted to a standard NBA contract. We were talking about the fact that, okay, Tyus Jones is gone. We don't really have a real point guard on this roster, so it's likely going to be Brandon Williams that starts. But we've seen it happen over these past few games. We're not seeing anything too terrible. We're not seeing anything exciting that leads to winning basketball. So I'm just going to go ahead and pose this question. Do you think Brandon Williams is actually going to be our starting point guard for the rest of the season? Or are we going to start making that shift towards Ryan Nembhard at the helm? I'm kind of 50-50 at the moment. I think it may depend on the matchup, right? We talked about this heading into the game against the Thunder the other day that, on paper, that's not the game that you want to start Ryan Nembhard. They have a lot of long, lean, point of attack defenders that can shut down somebody that's 5'10" so easily. I mean, they're stealing candy from a baby even whenever they're guarding someone that's 6'7", 6'8". So yeah, Ryan Nembhard, if the defense collapses on him at all, like that's an easy turnover for the Thunder. But that's not going to be the case in every game that we play, because obviously the Thunder have such an elite defense. They have such elite point of attack defending specifically that any matchup for Ryan Nembhard beyond the Thunder suddenly becomes a lot easier, right? A lot more manageable as a floor general. So I'm kind of thinking that I should have done an exact count of how many games we have left this season. Let me see if I can do some quick math in front of you here on this pod. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask another question, one that I think might even be more provocative than are we going to run with Brandon Williams at the starting helm for the rest of the season, or is it going to be Ryan Nembhard? The other question I have is, are we going to be sad when Brandon Williams walks this summer? I say when and not if, mainly because he is on an expiring deal. He will become an unrestricted free agent, and for him to be on basically the minimum salary that he could have made these past couple seasons, I think he has earned his way into a $5, $6, $7, $8 million contract. Right? I besides the 3-point shooting that has seen a major regression this season, he has continued to improve as a ball handler, as a guy that drives to the hoop unapologetically, as a guy that is widely considered to be one of the fastest players in the league, right? Like, I've kind of enjoyed watching him play. I've enjoyed watching his development. But the reason I ask is, if we're going to be heartbroken when he walks this summer, is because I think the way our roster was built, let's say 14 months ago, so a month before the Luka trade happened, we had a healthy Kyrie Irving. We had a Luka Doncic that was going to be returning from a calf injury. And then we had Brandon Williams as kind of like the third potential ball handler on that squad. I think he is so perfect for that role. It's insane. And he would have continued to thrive in that role. And if the Mavericks kind of retool their roster to the point where we have a primary, a secondary ball handler, and then he can still fit into that tertiary ball handler role, then great. I think we should keep him because he's young, he's talented, he's continuing to develop his game more and more. People have even seen some Kyrie Irving in his game, and I don't disagree with that statement. I don't disagree with it at all. I think it'd be really fun to keep him around. But if we're looking at next season, Kyrie being our starting point guard and Brandon Williams being the backup, I don't know that I necessarily want to see that, because whenever he is the only ball handler on the court at a certain point in time, he's kind of a ball hog, right? So we need to have a balanced attack in both our first, second, and even third units, where we don't have somebody who's so ball dominant that nobody else gets any good looks, nobody ever finds any rhythm. So I'm curious what you think. Is Brandon Williams going to remain a Dallas Maverick? And if he doesn't, are you going to be sad about it? Now, I already forgot what I was looking up on my phone as I was posing that second question. Let me see if I can recuperate my thought process real quick. All right, I regained my train of thought. I remembered what I was looking up, and that is how many games the Mavericks have left this season. The number is 22. So we have 16 left in the month of March, and then there's going to be 6 games that we play in the month of April. So of those 22 games, I want you to sound off in the comment section. How many of those games will Brandon Williams start at the point guard position? And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and follow up with how many of those. I guess that's silly. Whatever amount that Brandon Williams does not start, I'm going to assume you mean that those remaining games are where Ryan Nembhard is at the helm. So I'd probably say of those 22, let's go 15 Brandon Williams, 7 Ryan Nembhard. And it's important for Brandon Williams to get those starts. It's important for him to continue getting good reps on the court, because if he's not going to be a Dallas Maverick long term, this is really his resume to generate interest across the league, right? So that maybe he gets a bigger bag this summer. So yeah, give him plenty of burn, let him show what he's got. And I'm confident that teams across the league will sign up for his services. I also say that 7 starts for Ryan Nembhard through the remainder of the season is also important, right? There's been kind of back and forth debate about whether or not Ryan Nembhard is an NBA point guard, right? Obviously, whenever he was at Gonzaga, he led the nation in assists. Right. And so that didn't really surprise people whenever he came across to the NBA and looked like a real point guard. But then, there was that 2 or 3 game stretch where he was outstanding. And we were even comparing those 3 games to Linsanity that happened 15 years ago. And then it faded away really, really fast. It seemed like the league kind of figured out Nimby super fast. So I want Ryan Nembhard to be made uncomfortable. I want him to be thrown out to the Sharks. And that's going to mean he's going to have some tough starts. That means he's going to need to be at the helm against some of the best defenses in the NBA. So he can really figure out how to get his reads in faster, how to get the ball out of his hands faster, and to aggressively and confidently put up some shots whenever nothing else seems to be working. That seems to be kind of the missing piece in my mind, other than just the obvious, like, he's really short. Let's get some good, confident reps in for the rest of the season for both Brandon Williams and Ryan Nembhard. But, let me know what you think. I personally think I would be a little bit sad if Brandon Williams decided to take his talents elsewhere, but I'd also understand. Likely we're going to draft a point guard. We will get Kyrie Irving back next season. So maybe we don't have as much urgency in keeping Brandon Williams on the roster, especially if he's asking for $7-8 million a year. I don't know what kind of market there is for players like him. But again, people across the league view him as one of the quickest, most explosive guards in the game. So I have said my piece on Brandon Williams. Why don't we move right along here? I am going to continue talking about Max Christie, right? I've been a tough critic. I said in yesterday's episode, I do understand that maybe it's not part of his personality to be a high volume scorer or shooter. So let's take that thought process a step further here. Again, I'm thinking through the lens of, like, who is part of the Dallas Mavericks long-term, like, come rain or shine. And if Max Christie is going to fit into this roster, I need to know exactly, is he going to be a starting level 2 guard, right? Because I mentioned this, post All-Star break, we played 6 games. He has started 5 of them. I think it's unconscionable that he would be, like, relegated back to the bench, like, for the rest of the season. But let's say we go in and we sign a guy in restricted free agency this summer, somebody like a Kobe White. Now, I'm not going to hold my breath for that one. I definitely don't think that Kobe White fits in Charlotte long term. So maybe he wants to find a place where he could be a secondary scorer and ball handler. Dallas could make sense. And if we brought in a Kobe White, would you rather have good defending in the starting lineup, or would you rather have elite scoring? I say elite scoring because it's not, the scoring is not just going to come from, not going to just come from Kobe White in this situation. It would come from Kyrie and Cooper Flagg primarily, and then having a third option on the court. Like, that's where Kobe White, I think, could really, really thrive as a Dallas Maverick. So if Max Christie is not developing into a high volume shooter or scorer, can he at least develop into an elite point of attack defender? Because in my mind, if he can't do that second option where he is an elite defender, like an all NBA defense type of guy, then I think it's very likely that somebody that comes in and can score competently and consistently and all those things could potentially shift Max Christie back to the bench next season. Okay. So that's kind of where my mind is at as I'm thinking about Max Christie and his long-term trajectory with the Mavericks. Another scenario, apart from restricted free agency, bringing in a guy like Coby White. What if we drafted Darren Peterson? What if we drafted Keaton Wagler or Michael Brown Jr.? Those are all guys that could play the one, but they most especially play the two. And I've seen Mavs fans on Twitter talking about just how unbelievable of a combination it would be to have Kyrie at the one, Darren Peterson at the two. And I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, that would be unbelievable. And if Kyrie starts at the point guard, plays 7 minutes, and then goes to the bench, Darren Peterson could be slide into the one, or Michael Brown Jr. or Keaton Wagler. Those are all combo guard type of players that can go get their own buckets and they have decent size. So could create potential mismatch situations. That is not something that we are getting out of Max Christie right now, right? Probably that's not what we're going to get out of John Poulakidis, the guy that we just signed to a two-way contract. So if we draft any of those guys that I just mentioned, again, Darren Peterson, Keaton Wagler, Michael Brown Jr., or even, dare I say, Braden Burries, who is really, I mean, he's kind of at the top of my radar right now, mainly because of what my dad is telling me he is seeing in his development right now. So if we draft any of those guys, I think I would also be tempted to shift Max Christie back to the bench in favor of starting one of those guys. Then there's the Klay Thompson of it all. Like, are we going to have a new set of problems next season where we have too crowded of a guard rotation where an exciting rookie that we just drafted doesn't get enough reps, or a Coby White doesn't feel like he's getting enough touches on a team when he's like one of the older guys? All of this is really points back to Max Christie, because for the remainder of this season, he does take a step forward with his offensive game and he shows that he can be an elite point of attack defender, then I think he has locked down his position as a starting two guard for the Dallas Mavericks, where, ideally day one of next season, we're starting Kyrie Irving, Max Christie, Cooper Flagg. Wait. Do we start him at the 3 or the 4? I'm kind of leaning 4. So somebody at the 3, Cooper Flagg at the 4, and then Derek Lively. I'm actually so stinking excited to get Derek Lively back next season. But I like the sound of that starting lineup if Max Christie can take a leap for the remainder of the season. If he cannot, I would very much be in favor of starting somebody that we signed in free agency like Coby White, or somebody that we draft over him to get instant offense. Because going back to what we talked about at the beginning of this episode, whenever we are running all these different lineups and we are still getting the same results where we dig ourselves in a deep hole because we turn the ball over a bunch in the first quarter, we can't hit the broadside of the barn in the first half. I think the easiest way to patch that up is to have guys that can go get buckets that are starting the game. And then if it feels like the other team is starting to go on a good scoring run, then you bring in your defensive lineup. You bring in your Max Christie. You bring in your Caleb Martin and Naji Marshall, whatever. But I'm probably putting the cart way before the horse here, because it is March 3rd. And again, we have 6 weeks left of this season. And then there's going to be a 2-month break before we really get into the lottery and the draft and the offseason stuff that will be really exciting. By the way, yeah, I'm going to record a lot in the offseason. So, yeah, just get ready for that part of it. Let's quickly go through some. You heard it here first related to tonight's game at Charlotte. I'm just going to dive right in. The game is at 6 p.m. Central Time. It is at Charlotte, and the Hornets are riding a 4-game winning streak right now. They're playing hot. They had a 10-game winning streak, about a month ago, and that was halted. But they pick right back up where they left off. Do I think the Mavericks are going to win tonight? No, I do not. No, I do not. We are going to lose 112-100. You heard it here first. Very much like every other game, we will get in a big hole. We will shoot the ball poorly. We will turn the ball over. We will look like we are an incoherent basketball team until maybe halfway through the second quarter, and then we're going to turn it around. We're going to get within 5, and we're like, okay, yeah, we're going to find a way to win this game, and then we're going to melt down at the end of the fourth quarter by turning the ball over again. You heard it here first. In the midst of all of that action, we will see Con Knippel put up a 20-point double-double on us tonight. All right, he's been pretty well automatic from mid-range. He's shooting 45% from the three-point line. Yeah, I think it's not even a question of whether or not he's going to score 20 points. But the double-double is probably where it gets to be more of a bold prediction. He's done it a few times this season. He's a solid rebounder as a 6'5" guard. But, yeah, that's what I expect to see from Con. He's like one of my favorite non-Dallas Mavericks. You've heard me talk about him a lot. If Cooper Flagg returns tonight, and that's a pretty big if. Again, we have no updates on this at the moment. He still will outshine Con Knippel, even though he's missed 8 games. So if Con puts up 20 and 10 on us, Cooper Flagg's going to put up 25 on efficient shooting. And maybe because he's not going to go just full tilt immediately, maybe he kind of relaxes and gets more comfortable from the three-point line. That's what I would like to see. That's what I mean when I say efficient shooting. Maybe he doesn't have to go in somebody's life by posterizing them. Maybe he can just step back and hit a nice three. Anywho, if Cooper Flagg does not return in tonight's game, well then Chris Middleton and Klay Thompson, get ready for that heater, guys. The one that I talked about, like questions coming out of the All-Star break, like are we due for a Chris Middleton and Klay Thompson heater? If Cooper Flagg does not play tonight, again, there's no Naji Marshall. PJ Washington is questionable. So we're going to have to get offense from somewhere, and I think we will be so ripe for that heater from Mitty and Klay. That'll be fun to watch, even though we're going to lose. And then finally, between Musa Cisse and Daniel Gafford, they're going to have 6 blocks. Something about the Hornets that I've learned, they are a really good mid-range and three-point shooting team, but they also have a few guys that like to drive to the hoop, like Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller. I think those guys are going to get a head full of steam and think that they can go yam on either of those guys, and they're going to have a hard time with that. They're like, okay, actually, let's go back to what we know is going to work, and that's going to be getting wide open looks because the Mavericks don't close out on three-point shots quick enough. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. If you are still here 22 and a half minutes in, I got a quick message for you. Thank you for sticking around. And before you leave, please drop comments. What are you thinking about the Brandon Williams situation? What are you thinking about tonight's game? Are we going to see Cooper Flagg return? But yeah, also make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you share this video with your friends. I'm going to try and do a better job of not just talking about the Mavericks, especially as the season winds down and we go into the off season. I want to talk about like in general NBA stuff. So if you have an NBA sicko that is your best friend, just make them aware of your sports media. We are a growing, exciting, independent sports network, and we're going to continue growing this party. But I will likely see you guys in the studio tomorrow. Y'all party on and be good.